my name is Otte, and my family and I have River Valley Organics in Tonasket, Washington. We bought the orchard in 1997 and immediately started going into the transition process because we just didn't want to do it any other way. Our two sons still live on the orchard and work on the orchard. So it's a real family operation. So 2001, we became certified, and we started out with about 19 or 20 acres of fruit, which may sound like a lot of acres, but for fruit growing, it's really not, it's really pretty small. So anyway, we very early on, probably about the time that we became certified, we realized that in order to survive, we needed more control over our own operation so that we could decide, when we were going to pick the fruit, when we were going to sell it. So we started out by with our cherries, and we were able to make a connection with the PCC, Puget Consumer Co-op markets over in the Seattle area. And so we started packing all of our own fruit at our place. We do have a few local little stores and local people that we sell to also. Well, we have the cherries. They're Lapin cherries. And then we have the Bosc pears, the ones with the long neck on them. And with the apples, we start with Gala. We have Honeycrisp. And then we move into the early Fujis. Then we pick the Cosmic Crisp, although they can't be sold until like end of November or whenever we're told each year that they can be sold. We have what's called a Cameo. So in the beginning, we were 19 acres, and as our sons grew up, they each have a family, and at a certain point, we realized that we really needed to expand because also PCC was wanting more of certain varieties. So we have, about 31 acres of fruit now. It's basically doubled our production. It's important that you get something that works for you. It's not going to do you any good to have a great record keeping system if it doesn't work for you. So I have always had a bit of a hard time doing things on the computer as far as record keeping. So I personally prefer handwritten. One of our sons, our middle son, is the one that runs the whole packing operation now, and he does everything digitally. So it's really a mixture. All the packing stuff is digital. Well, as you'll see as we're looking at it, my stuff is handwritten, but it works for me. When we first started replanting different varieties, we did a lot of grafting, and we were using mostly our own signs, off of the trees that we already had. We did get some from nurseries. The last number of years, we've been planting trees, and I've looked online for large quantities of organic fruit trees, and I just haven't been able to find any. Only this type of, they want to know that hasn't been treated, prior to you putting it in the ground. So we deal with local nurseries mostly. This is a copy of a letter from Van Well Nursery. It talks about just the way they treat their trees, that they're non-GMO, and that when they're growing them, they are grown with a conventional spray program, but that they don't treat them or anything before they send them to us. Well, the main way that we keep records, and I actually don't have, but I could grab a timesheet. The timesheets for the people that work out in the field have little, like a little legend at the bottom. And we ask them to write down what it was that they did that day, just so we can keep track of how much time gets spent doing each thing. But as far as the, all the other things, the mowing and the pruning and the thinning and all that, that would be logged on the timesheets. Well, we spray a lot of different things. Actually, right now, like we just put on a copper spray on the cherries yesterday. It's really tricky in the spring, like right now, early spring, because it gets windy a lot and you have to work around the wind and the cold mornings and everything. When we spray, we have to document not only what we're spraying, but what the conditions are at the time that we're spraying. So you have to write down what the wind is doing and, just the weather conditions. You have to write down which piece of equipment you're using, who's doing the spraying, so that you can keep track of all of that. And it's actually very, it's a good resource for us from year to year, because we can look at what we did last year and go, oh, on March 15th, we sprayed blah, blah, blah. It's time to do it again. So with this, we would write down, the location, River Valley Organics, the block, say it might be North Bottom block, say. And then the date of application, who it is that's applying. Then you write down the method of application. A lot of what we do is by hand. Guys walking down the rows with buckets of fertilizer, putting a handful or two around each tree. It just says type of fertilizer, like it might say micronutrient, trade name, perfect blend, it might say, quantity per acre. I don't know the quantities offhand, but it might be 30 pounds per acre or something like that. So that will say that there. Like say we pick 20 bins of Honeycrisp in a given day. Each of those bins has the index card on it that shows who picked it, what block it came from, and the date and the variety. So then, as our other son does the tractor driving during harvest, so he'll bring the fruit down one bin at a time. As he brings it down, our son who does the packing has a clipboard with this form on it. So, for example, where it says number 1, he'll say he gets a bin of Honeycrisp. He writes in there fruit type Honeycrisp, picker Jesus, date August 31st, block Honeycrisp bottom north. And then he writes the time that he gets it, and then he weighs each bin, and he writes the weight on the card that's on the bin already. So at the end of the day, he'll have like a whole sheet, full of all that kind of information. It's like a check and balances for us also, because occasionally, you know, because we do have different locations for each variety, and I'm the one that walks around and checks the bins of fruit. And sometimes like, you know, our son will come grab a bin before I get a chance to get back over there and put a card on it when it's full, because I don't put the cards until the bin is full, you know. So occasionally there's a little discrepancy. At the end of the day, our son Rory that does this part, I'll say, okay, I got, you know, 20 bins total. What did you get? And maybe he got 21, you know. So then we can go back through and I'll say, okay, how many did Jesus get? And he'll count all of Jesus's, and we'll do that for each person. And so it's a way for us, because this doesn't lie, you know, this is right there, right where he's putting each bin into the cold storage. So whatever this sheet says is what really went in that day. And actually there has been, I think there was one time that I had more written down. He had one less, and it turned out that there was a bin that hadn't been brought in yet from the field. You know, somebody hadn't noticed it, you know. So it's just a good check and balance system for us. So this is the first step. Then they all get put into the cold storage, and he, you know, he stacks them. I think he goes 5 bins high. And when he stacks them, he puts them so that the index card that I put on them is to the outside where you can see it. Because that helps us know, like sometimes we will, like say with the Honeycrisp, maybe we know that there's a certain block that, you know, needs to get sold right away, for example. And so we'll pack those first, you know, so it helps to be able to tell what's in each bin when he pulls them out to pack them. Then when he pulls them out, so each day we'll pack. So that when we pack, he'll go get a bin from the cold storage. He'll bring it up into the room where we clean and sort them. The way that we've always done it is by hand. Like we use water when we do the cherries, we wash them, but the other fruit, we don't use water. We clean them with like clean cloths. So say for example, we're doing cameos that day. We're packing cameos. Each time he brings a bin in, because it has that ticket on there, and it shows, you know, who picked it, where it was picked from, and what the date was that it was picked. And then he has written the weight on each one. So all that information goes in this section. And also over here, what time it was packed. It's all kind of part of our tracking system too, you know. That way we know which bins were packed that day. If there ever is an issue, you know, it can be more closely isolated to, because also the packed boxes that when we put the labels on them, it has the time on there that it was packed. So on this sheet, this is a sheet that he prints off then every single day. And this shows what was packed. And then at the end of the day, like we do a tally sheet in the room where we're packing them. I didn't bring an example of that, but it's just where it's broken down into, you know, before the morning break, after the morning break, after lunch, you know, blocks of time like that. And they just put a little tally sheet for each box that they pack for each size of fruit. And then at the end of the day, Rory goes in and he looks at the tally sheet, but he also actually counts how many boxes there were of each size, you know, physically on on the pallets. And then he does this part of it, which shows how many of each size were packed that day. So he does that every day. Then he does a thing, and this is actually Honeycrisp, but just kind of ignore it. This is the pallet tracking, where each pallet, as they we have a little, like where we pack the fruit, we have a little cool bot room where the pallets get created, you know, where they get filled. And then as soon as we fill a pallet, he'll come grab it and bring it down to the big cold storage. So every time he fills a pallet, he like, this is pallet 1, you know, it'll have the date and the number of boxes on it. And it, you know, it's just a way for him to kind of track for each variety, you know, what it is that he has in inventory. Okay, so then he'll have this sheet, and it'll show each date on there and how many boxes of each size got packed. And so it's kind of just a summary of the whole thing. We have what's called a bill of lading. So, for example, if, you know, I send a shipment to PCC and it has 200 boxes of Honeycrisp and 400 boxes of Galas and 100 boxes of Bosc, you know, whatever it has, they'll all be listed on the bill of lading. And that's what the trucker gets. And then we have, these are invoices. So, you know, it just lists each variety and the price and the total price. So then, and then these are what I use to create this sales summary. You know, I just go through all these invoices at the end of the year and just write down for each variety what was sold, who it was sold to, and you know, for how much. I was totally terrified the first time. I ahead of time gather everything that I think he's going to need to see, and I'll put like a little sticky note on it, you know, spray records, fertilizer logs, you know, like that. And then I just lay them all out on the table so that I can see every single thing. Because for me, if I didn't do that, and you know, he said, well, I want to see your fertilizer log now. And then I'd be, you know, oh, fertilizer log, where's that? You know, and I have to look through everything. So it really helps me to have it all laid out visually, you know, to where I can see every single thing. One of the things he does, like, they always check, because when you do your organic certificate application, you have to write down, you know, how many sales you had, how much sales you had for each item. And so he'll pick something random, you know, and he'll say, okay, show me all the sales for your Gala apples, you know, and then I need to show him like the invoices and the sales summary sheet. But it's always random, so you don't know, you know, which thing he's going to pick. He looks at the spray records. That's a big one, you know. And you need to have not just the records that you take, that you keep yourself, you know, for when you spray, but you have to have the purchase records, you know, the receipts. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll just get the spray company to send me a summary of everything, you know, from the last time he was here till now, you know, so that he can see what we bought and didn't buy. You know, make sure that when you write your spray records that you write down the actual name of the product the way it's listed on your input materials list. He looks at that. He looks at the fertilizer records. He looks at the whole traceability. So he wrote his name. He was looking at the Cosmic Crisp apples. It just said lot or other identification, River Valley Organics, shipped 12/4/22. And then they have a spot where it says, identify the document trail in the following table. We have the organic certificate, Cosmic Crisp are listed on there. Our harvest log, which is that handwritten thing I showed you. So it started on 10/1/22 was when we started harvesting the Cosmic Crisp. There were 48 bins harvested. The Cosmic Box inventory on 12/4/22. So that would have been this kind of sheet, only for Cosmic Crisp. Then the Cosmic pallet tracking. Then the bill of lading, which showed what pallets got sent out, and then the invoice that related to the bill of lading they have the same number on them. My advice with creating your documentation is do what works for you. For example, for me, this works. It's not a pretty document, but it's my working document, and it suffices for what people like inspectors and crop insurance people, it's what they need to see. They need to see that record of what you picked. And so even though it's not pretty, it works. Figure out what works for you. For me, I could have every intention of doing all that on a spreadsheet and it would never get done because I'm not comfortable with it. So you do need to document. And you need to document in a timely manner. So for example, if you're spraying and you're doing your spray sheet documentation, you need to do it every day when you spray, not 2 weeks later when you're trying to remember what the weather was like. And, that way, when the time comes for you to do your inspection, you're not scrambling trying to catch up with all this documentation that you were supposed to do, but you have it all on hand, and it's just a matter of gathering it together, which I highly suggest. Gather it together ahead of time. And the other advice I have is to think of the inspector and the whole process as being an ally, to help you do a better job as an organic farmer and keep better track of what you're doing. Don't think of them as the police. They're not there to police you. They're there to help you. Good luck and enjoy your journey into becoming organically certified and figuring out what works for you.